What Aya Wilson just did was
completely
Aya Wilson just made the biggest mistake of her career, and there's no coming back. Her actions fueled a dangerous situation that left Caitlin Clark facing relentless assaults throughout the 2024 WNBA season. We have got confirmation of what is one of the worst things that happened to Caitlin Clark. The consequences, potential suspension backlash, and possibly the end of her career. The truth behind this scandal is bigger than basketball, and it's shaking the league to its core. Aya Wilson, who was at the time prior to Caitlin Clark the face of the WNBA, sent an angry mob towards a 22-year-old. What exactly did Aya do? How did it spiral out of control? Stay tuned as we break down every detail of this shocking controversy. Let's break it all down. Second, Clark's deal got announced. What's delayed is not denied. First, let's talk about what led up to this mess. Aya Wilson has been a dominant force in the WNBA for years. She's won championships, MVP titles, and has been one of the most recognizable faces in the sport. But despite all her success, there's always been this underlying conversation about the lack of mainstream recognition for Black female athletes compared to their white counterparts. It's a discussion that's been going on for years, not just in basketball, but across all sports. In order to get a signature shoe, because it did get pushed a few weeks later, not only was that not true, she has confirmed she had to keep it secret for almost 2 years. So for almost 2 years she knew about this. So by the way, and if you want to say that she didn't send an angry mob towards her, yeah, she did. She even had teammates, even future Caitlin Clark teammates, saying, I might get a shoe before Aya Wilson at this rate. Then comes Caitlin Clark, a college sensation with a massive following. She was breaking records, drawing huge crowds, and making headlines everywhere the moment she declared for the WNBA draft. The hype was unreal. Everyone wanted a piece of her. And Nike, they wasted no time signing her to a $28 million shoe deal, one of the biggest in women's basketball history. This is where things start to get messy. Nobody, and I mean no NDA, that makes it so that you have to pretend you have to play victim and pretend you don't have a shoe when you have one coming. You have to stay silent. You don't have to, especially when you saw what was happening the moment Clark's deal was announced. Some players, including Aya Wilson, reacted in a way that many saw as bitter. Instead of celebrating the growth of the league and what Caitlin's popularity could bring to women's basketball, it became a conversation about race, fairness, and who really deserved the spotlight. Wilson and others pointed out that many Black WNBA stars had never received the same level of endorsement deals despite their talent and accomplishments. Was that a fair conversation to have? Sure, but the way it played out was damaging. Instead of uplifting the league, it created an us versus them mentality, and that mentality quickly spilled onto the court. Throughout Caitlin Clark's rookie season, she became a target not just for tough defense, because that's part of the game, but for blatant cheap shots, unnecessary aggression, and moments that felt personal rather than competitive. She was elbowed, knocked down, shoved, and heckled in ways that crossed the line. And while physical play is nothing new in basketball, the consistency and intensity of it towards Clark raised eyebrows. Fans, analysts, and even former players started asking the tough question: was Caitlin Clark being intentionally targeted? And if so, who is fueling it? Then came the real controversy: Aya Wilson's comments. She made statements in interviews that, whether intentional or not, added fuel to the fire. When asked about Caitlin Clark's impact on the league, she made remarks about how certain players get pushed to the forefront while others are ignored. She also spoke about how she felt uncomfortable in certain environments, specifically mentioning Indiana, where Clark was playing. It didn't take long for people to connect the dots. Was Aya Wilson planting a narrative? Was she subtly encouraging resentment towards Caitlin Clark? And if so, did that resentment lead to the blatant on-court assaults Clark endured throughout the season? Things hit a breaking point when Caitlin took a particularly brutal hit during a game. It wasn't a regular foul. It was a deliberate shove that sent her crashing to the floor. Fans erupted, social media exploded. People started calling for action. Was this just a byproduct of intense competition, or was it something more sinister? At this point, the league had no choice but to address what was happening. The WNBA commissioner was pressed on whether the treatment of Caitlin Clark had gone too far. The response: a vague statement about physical play and sportsmanship, but fans weren't buying it. They wanted accountability. Meanwhile, Wilson doubled down. Instead of clarifying or de-escalating the situation, she stood by her words, emphasizing that the WNBA had long ignored Black athletes and that she wasn't going to apologize for speaking the truth. While many agreed with her sentiment about racial, before moving ahead in the video, if you have not liked the video yet, then like the video and subscribe to the channel. Disparities: they also felt that her approach had indirectly contributed to a hostile environment. And then the final blow came: a series of leaked messages and behind-the-scenes conversations that revealed that Wilson had allegedly been stirring the pot long before Clark even entered the league. Screenshots surfaced, showing her making dismissive remarks about Clark's popularity, questioning why she was getting so much attention, and even joking about how certain players should welcome her to the league the hard way. That was at the tipping point. Now, Aya Wilson finds herself at the center of a career-altering controversy. Sponsors are reportedly reconsidering their partnerships, the league is under pressure to take disciplinary action, and the conversation has shifted from racial disparities in the WNBA to did Aya Wilson incite targeted aggression. This is where things get real. Because if the league finds that Wilson did in fact contribute to the hostile treatment of Caitlin Clark, the consequences could be severe. We're talking potential suspensions, fines, or worse, being blacklisted from future endorsement deals. And let's not forget the damage to her legacy. Aya Wilson has built her career as one of the best to ever do it, but this controversy threatens to overshadow everything she's accomplished. So, where do we go from here? Should the WNBA step in and discipline Wilson? Should she be forced to issue an apology? And most importantly, how does the league move forward from this mess? One thing is for sure. This situation has exposed deep divisions in women's basketball. What should have been a celebration of Caitlin Clark's arrival has turned into one of the most controversial moments in WNBA history, and now Aya Wilson's career hangs in the balance. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The fallout from Aya Wilson's actions is only getting worse. What started as frustration over endorsements has spiraled into an all-out war of words, accusations, and potential career-ending consequences. With every passing day, new details emerge, and the WNBA finds itself in a crisis unlike any it has ever faced. The public backlash has been relentless. Fans of both Caitlin Clark and Aya Wilson are clashing online, debating whether this controversy is about race, fair competition, or something far more sinister. The league, already struggling for mainstream attention, now finds itself at the center of a national conversation that extends beyond basketball, and the pressure is mounting. Sponsors are taking notice. While Wilson has been a major face for brands in the past, some of those partnerships are now in question. Rumors are swirling that certain companies are considering distancing themselves from the controversy, fearing the PR nightmare that comes with it. If that happens, Wilson could see a financial impact that extends far beyond any suspension or fine the league might impose. But the biggest question remains: will the WNBA actually take action? The league is in a difficult position. On one hand, disciplining Wilson too harshly could alienate a significant portion of its player base and fans who believe she has been unfairly targeted. On the other hand, ignoring the situation completely could further inflame tensions and make it look like they condone the treatment Clark has received on the court. Behind closed doors, team owners and league officials are reportedly in deep discussions about the best way to handle the situation. Some believe a suspension is necessary to send a message that inciting hostility, even indirectly, has consequences. Others worry that punishing Wilson could open a floodgate of accusations against other players who have made similar remarks in the past. The WNBA has never faced a situation quite like this, and whatever decision they make will set a precedent for years to come. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark has remained mostly silent on the issue. Her camp has not made any official statements beyond the standard post-game interviews, where she continues to brush off questions about the aggressive play she's faced. But sources close to Clark suggest she is growing frustrated. While she doesn't want to be seen as someone who complains about physical play, she also recognizes that what she's endured goes beyond typical rookie treatment. Some analysts argue that Clark's silence has only made things worse. If she were to speak out and call for unity within the league, it might help cool tensions, but others say it's not her responsibility to fix a situation she didn't create. Either way, the more this drags on, the worse it gets for everyone involved. Aya Wilson, for her part, isn't backing down either. Despite the mounting criticism, she continues to stand by her statements. In a recent interview, she doubled down on her belief that black players in the WNBA have been overlooked for years, and that Clark's rapid rise to stardom is proof of the league's ongoing disparities. Her words have only added more fuel to the fire, with some defending her stance and others accusing her of making excuses for her actions. But the tipping point may be approaching faster than anyone anticipated. The league's next steps will determine the course of not just Wilson's career, but the entire WNBA's future. If they choose to discipline her, it could mark a turning point in how player conduct is handled. If they let it slide, it might embolden others to escalate tensions even further. Then there's the fan reaction. Social media is filled with calls for justice, both for Clark and for Wilson. Some argue that this controversy is being blown out of proportion, while others believe it's the defining moment of this WNBA season. The intensity of the debate has drawn in casual sports fans, media, personalities, and even former NBA players, all weighing in on what should happen next. And let's not forget the locker rooms. Players around the league are choosing sides, whether publicly or privately. Some are voicing support for Wilson, while others are quietly expressing concern over how Clark has been treated. The tension is real, and it's affecting the league in ways no one could have anticipated. As we move forward, there are a few possible outcomes. The WNBA could issue a suspension or fine to Wilson, effectively taking a stand against what many see as unacceptable behavior. They could also do nothing, hoping the controversy blows over on its own, or they could take a middle ground approach, issuing a vague statement about sportsmanship without actually taking action against anyone. Whatever happens, one thing is certain. This situation is far from over. The reputation of the league, the careers of both Wilson and Clark, and the future of women's basketball are all at stake, and as the days go by, the pressure only continues to build. Will Aya Wilson face real consequences for her role in this controversy? Will the WNBA step in before things spiral further out of control, or will this remain an unresolved chapter in a league that's struggling to find its footing in the national spotlight? Time will tell, but one thing is for sure: this is a defining moment for the WNBA. The world is watching, and every decision from here on out matters. In the end, this controversy should serve as a wake-up call for the league. The WNBA has long fought for greater visibility, fair pay, and respect in the world of sports, and incidents like this threaten to undermine all that progress. If the league fails to handle this situation properly, it could deter future sponsors and investors from wanting to associate with women's basketball. It's also a crucial moment for the players. Competition is one thing, but targeted aggression and hostility have no place in professional sports. If the WNBA wants to grow its fan base and bring in new viewers, it needs to create an environment where all players, regardless of race or popularity, are treated fairly and with respect. For Wilson, this could be an opportunity for reflection. She has the chance to step up, take responsibility, and show leadership. Whether she chooses to do that or continue to stand her ground will define how history remembers her. As for Caitlin Clark, she has already shown remarkable composure through all of this. If she continues to rise above the noise and focus on her game, she could very well come out of this controversy stronger than ever. In the long run, the way she handles this adversity might shape her legacy even more than her stats and accolades. Ultimately, the WNBA has a choice to make. It can either allow this controversy to divide the league further, or use it as a catalyst for necessary conversations about respect, equality, and fair treatment in the sport. Whatever happens next, the outcome of this scandal will leave a lasting impact on women's basketball for years to come. This controversy has shaken the WNBA to its core, and the fallout is far from over. Will Aya Wilson face consequences, or will the league sweep this under the rug? One thing is clear: this moment will define the future of women's basketball. What do you think? Should Wilson be held accountable, or is this being blown out of proportion? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Stay tuned for more, and as always, thanks for watching. See you next time. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to the channel.